Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I'm freestyling it to our concern. I'm just talking, man. I don't have any information. I didn't listen to anybody. My mindset hasn't even been on the Lakers, so I'm not coming to you with the normal, hey, I heard this and this is that. Nah, I just wanted to further react the day after we got whooped by the Knicks, got sent back to the 11th place. It's probably temporarily. Things are going to fluctuate a lot over the next 2-3 weeks, you guys. I'm not going to lie to you. You're going to see teams flop up and down between 8 and 11 rather frequently. And I think you could see some surprises too. Teams making late surges and stuff like that. Don't be surprised by anything. Nobody's safe, especially if they start losing, which is why we needed to talk, man. Have the Lakers picked up a center yet? See, this is the thing that most makes me hesitant. And I say hesitant because after seeing Rob Pelinka do everything right in regards to holding all his cards and then making the right trade, I'm hesitant to say I don't know if what I'm looking at is a mistake or not. But it seems to me that he's very hesitant about bringing certain players in as it pertains to messing up his cap situation. He doesn't want to move any pieces around that's going to affect our cap in any funny kind of way. So signing an extra guy may not be something he's looking at. But for me, it's like when it comes to the necessity of what we're looking at now, after the trade deadline, there should be nothing keeping us from getting another player onto this roster that will fill a need. And that need for me is center. We have to address that, man. I'm not one of those guys that's been saying bring in Nerlens Noel or Hassan Whiteside. I don't really particularly like those names, man. But I do think we need to fill the C spot right now. I hear Moses Brown is available. I also understand that he keeps getting waived everywhere he goes. He's a really limited player, and you're only going to get so much from him, so I don't know if he really has the upside I'm looking for at this point, even though I've been on camera saying I want us to pick him up. It probably isn't a bad idea. I mean, when you consider what it is he can do with long arms, and he's really a rebounding monster. So if you're trying to crash the glass, which we needed yesterday, especially against a guy like Hartenstein, who had no points but dominated the game in today's era, imagine that, right? Dominated the damn game by just simply playing defense and rebounding the ball very well. And this is one of those situations where it's like maybe a guy like Moses Brown could carve himself out a role in this league by doing those things. If he can't score the ball and he can't really do other things, maybe he can carve himself a role by just cleaning up the glass like a madman. I know he's capable of that. So that's just a name to throw out there. But the most important thing the Lakers need to do is find a name. Anybody, find a person that could get in here and play the center position who can hold some value next season. That's my thing. Make sure it's a holdover or somebody that you can trade in the offseason. I kind of don't want us to go the DJ Augustine route. And if anybody knows what I'm talking about, we picked up DJ Augustine. He played some really nice minutes to end the season for us, played shots, a couple 3-point shots, made a couple assists. And then at the end of the season, when it was over with, that was it. We just never saw him again. Value dissipated, player off into the wind. It was if he was never here, and it was if value never mattered. And my thing was, if we would have taken a young player, anybody, he didn't even have to be that good. He could have been anybody. And just put him in them same minutes, you could have got something for that kid. I don't care if it's cash consideration, second round pick. You know what I'm saying? But it does provide you some sense of value. And if for nothing else, maybe you still have him walk like DJ Augustine. Maybe you don't do anything with him. But if nothing else, you also have, again, continued to the process of developing players, which is something I think every organization needs to do and have a passion for doing if they want to be successful in this league. I don't care if you have superstars on tab or not. Player development should be something that you have as a high priority, in my humble opinion, all year round, no matter where you are in your path. So that's just something I really believe. And I think the Lakers are really good at that right now. But I don't want to see us go that route in terms of filling this roster spot just to get a center for end the season with a guy, and then that guy just goes on to the win. I would rather continue the process of getting something that can add to this core. Give me a Bruno Fernando type of dude. Where is somebody like that? Put him on this roster, and let's see if he can give us 10-15 minutes at the center spot so that we can relieve ourselves of the anxiety of having nights like last night where we just went up against two very, very, very legitimate traditional centers and got our butts whooped. You know, you can't look at games like last night and say, okay, that's the only reason we lost. But you can say it is a recipe for disaster when you don't necessarily see yourself having a chance to match up against, say, a Joel Embiid. I know right now we don't match up well with Joel Embiid. Even with Anthony Davis, that's a bad situation, because at the end of the day, we don't have anybody outside of Anthony Davis that we can throw at him even remotely and expect to get any success. With respect to Vanderbilt, he's way too small, man. It's not going to happen. So once you start looking at situations like that, you're hoping Bamba can come back. He's not healthy right now and won't be back for a month. So as far as I can tell, we're going to hit, if we stand pat right now and find our way to the playoffs, we're going to run into some trouble with real centers. We're not going to get to Joel. And that's what it really comes down to. I think that'll be our Achilles heel. I'm concerned about running into guys like Jaren Jackson, Rudy Gobert. Jokic, not really. Sabonis, kind of, yeah. That kind of thing, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't love us going against certain players that are really, really big and really dominant. And I think the jury's actually out on whether or not we can guard the little bitty guys too. To be honest with you, the small guys like the Trae Youngs and the Ja Morants. Speaking of Ja Morant, he checked into some type of facility for behavioral something. I don't really know how to word it, but he's out indefinitely. And so that's the word. Hopefully he can get some help, get back before the playoffs for his team's sake. Certainly not for ours. Tell you right now, if he wants to sit out for the rest of the season, it is not going to hurt the rest of the Western Conference. I'll tell you that right now. But nevertheless, this is a situation where his team is, I have circled on the list, is one of the teams that we're going to have to potentially face. And one of the reasons why we need to have a center is because Jaren Jackson and Xavier Tillman and eventually Steven Adams is going to be back. You know what I mean? And they got a nice team there. And I feel like I'm forgetting another big too. There is definitely another big that I'm forgetting about. But the point is, they have plenty of bigs if you happen to run into them. And if we happen to get lucky and get the 6th seed, that's who will be sitting there waiting for us more than likely. You're looking at Phoenix, Ayton. You know, you feel that great having to go up against Ayton with only AD? Yeah. If I'm forced to, you know what I mean? I'm going to convince myself that we'll be just fine. But there are going to be nights where I know Ayton's going to eat on the boards, and it's just because we're not going to have that center down there. So we can remedy that. Just go get us one. He don't have to be over the moon great. He just has to be 7 feet, block a couple shots, and that kind of thing. A competent jump shooter, you know, that's it. Just a guy. Jay Huff, maybe. Somebody that you let completely leave. Probably playing garbage minutes for the Washington Wizards. This is exactly who we need. A player that we had. Which is something I had worked into my equation, sadly enough. Anyway, whatever, man. Malik Beasley. I've talked a lot about Malik, man. I just don't know what to do. I don't quite believe that sitting him is going to get the most out of him. I think we're going to have a cold player coming off the bench. If we sit him, it's just going to mess with his confidence. He's a struggling player with his confidence not necessarily being where it needs to be. I don't know that demoting him is going to help. I think you could potentially be looking at a player that just gets worse from here if we press the wrong button. That doesn't necessarily mean that you don't sit him. Unfortunately, you just have to push him down to where Lonnie Walker is. You didn't have no problem pushing Lonnie back there, and we certainly don't believe Lonnie deserved to be back there. I don't think any Laker fans actually think Lonnie Walker should be on the back of your bench for any reason, even with our lineup being this good. He's just not the guy to push back. But that's a Darvin thing, man. That's not necessarily what the rest of the league would do either, man. Honestly, I don't want to make this a bash Darvin video because that's what I did last night. So I won't, but I will say that it's still the same problem that we've had all season long, even though we've made the changes. And so when we start breaking down what went wrong and what we saw that went wrong, it really does come down to the coaching and what he decided to do. Now, I listened back to my video last night and I was very, quick to get off of the camera. Just I had said enough. After 25 minutes, I was done. But I don't think I held AD as accountable as maybe others did. And maybe I could go back and look at that differently. I think for me, I just felt like he was neutralized by a really good defense. I was on the side of the fence that felt that he's been neutralized by great defensive schemes 2 nights in a row. And while there is a conversation to have about him busting through that defense and playing great through that. I think there's also something to weigh against that, and it's called foot injury. That's never, ever leaving my mind. And so when I look at how much responsibility he has on the defensive end and how much energy he exerts on the defensive end, and I watch guys like LeBron James conserve their energy on the defensive end so they can give us more on the offensive end. And I look at that, at AD as a player who's playing through what is basically a fragile body. You know what I mean? It is what it is. I don't look at him, his body, and say, that's the guy who's going to give me 50, 20, and 4 blocks every night. I think the way to surmise AD is to understand that he has a passive mentality, but a godlike game. And it's not a trait that many super duper great talents have, but it is a trait that many great superstars wish their co-star had. And that's what sucks about all of this. Do you know how great AD would have been running alongside Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan or Allen Iverson or any of these guys who could use a co-star that could dominate the defensive end and won't take away shots from them? But if for some reason they don't have it going, could go for more points than they can go. That is the perfect complementary superstar that I can think of. And that's what sucks, because he doesn't necessarily find himself slotted next to that player really ever in life. Because LeBron James is not that guy. LeBron James is the guy who can also pass the rock. So he doesn't really take advantage of the fact that AD is so passive. In fact, he needs AD to step up and score more of the time, based on the fact that LeBron James tends to have that same trait sometimes. And unfortunately for LeBron James as a Laker, injury issues, something that Bron as a Cleveland Cavalier and the Miami Heat never had a problem with. He needs AD to step up and score more and not have passive games at all, because he's not on the floor. And that is the key to this all. With Bron not out there, AD's taking on the brunt of all the best defense, and while he's supposed to be able to take on that, unfortunately for him, he's not used to that anymore, because he hasn't been that A1 guy in a long time. And what does that mean? It means he's not taking on A1 defense. So that means when he does take on A1 defense, it's abnormal for him. He is not running the way he normally does. This is not like Giannis, who gets the same defense every night, or Jokic, who gets the same defense every night. This is a guy who is of their level, but is not of that role. So he has to prepare different, and his expectations for what it is he's supposed to do from season to season is different based on the role he signed up for as number 2 to Bron. Now, we want him to step forward and be a number 1, but it's kind of hard for that to ever be established when neither one of them are ever on the floor for long enough for that to happen. When Bron's out there, AD's not out there. When AD's out there, Bron's not out there. So there's never really time for the passing of the torch. I was listening to Paul Pierce and KG talking, man, about how they were waiting for LeBron James to pass the torch to LeBron to AD. And my thing is, if they watch the Lakers enough, they'd understand that it's not even about that. They just don't have enough time on the floor to even establish that, bro. In these 4 or 5 years, you would think that they would be able to establish that. But from season to season to season, I promise you, they don't be on the floor together, man. It ain't no Bron deferring to AD or them running pick and rolls constantly for AD to get the ball afterward. It just doesn't happen. Usually, if they are on the floor together, one of them's coming back from injury while the other one's in his stride. That's how it's always going. So I don't think LeBron James has just not given the torch to AD. I don't think that's been the case at all. I just think that when you look at the fullness of all of it, it's been hard to do so. It's like when Bron wants to give him the torch, he ain't healthy, or when he wants to give him the torch, maybe he's playing passive. You know what I mean? When they do have it together, we won a championship. So you can see where it went right that one season. So I don't think we're too far away from being that type of team right now. I think most people see us as good as 2020. The question is the field what it needed to be for 2020's team to win the championship? And I don't know if 2020's team could win the championship today. I'm not certain. They were an older squad, but I don't think it matters because this ain't no older squad. And when you're comparing this team to 2020, it ain't about the age. It ain't even about the pieces. It's just about how good you think they are and the core. And honestly, I think this team is better than 2020 based on the capability of the role players on this roster. But we just need to have good, competent rotations and decisions by the head coach, and that's where we fall short. I don't think the year we won the championship, we were worried about Vogel at all in regards to our rotations. Our rotations were set. Our players were solidified with their roles, and we knew what we were doing, and we knew everybody's spot, and it was a very long season, et cetera, et cetera. So it wasn't a whole lot of distractions. It wasn't a whole lot of ambiguity. People knew what they needed to do, and they were trying to get through the bubble. This is an entirely different situation. It ain't no 4 months off for whatever, however long it was for COVID. None of that is happening. We just have to go forward and try to fight our way back into the season, traditional season style. So this team has a lot working against it based on the fact that there's so many other teams vying for positioning. Some of those teams have players coming back from injury, that kind of thing. Brandon Ingram is expected to be questionable tomorrow against the Lakers. Anybody shocked by that? I'm sure you're not. So this is the type of thing. It's like, we got to be careful, man. Luka Doncic ain't going to be gone for long. KD ain't going to be gone forever. You know, I don't know what's up with Karl Anthony Towns, but he can sway things himself if he comes back and strengthens that Timberwolf team as much as his game is capable of being. And the thing about Karl Anthony Towns is, what I've noticed about him is he's had a good stretch of off seasons where he's worked on his conditioning. And before he got hurt this last time, he was running the floor as well as he ever has. Now, coming back from injury, you would say, well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, I would imagine that means he's carried some of those habits that he took working out, getting into that shape. He's implemented those same habits into trying to get in shape now, or as he comes back from this injury. Now, I don't know where he is in his trajectory coming back from injury, but what I'm telling you is, based on what I think he's been doing in terms of his conditioning, he should come back very sharp. And if my hypothesis or thesis, or whatever the word is right about that, he is going to add a lot to that Timberwolves team and probably going to out somebody in the first round if he comes back just in time to do so. So I would be very, very cautious going up against 2 7-footers, one of which can stretch the floor and score about 40 points. And the other who's going to just park it in the paint, probably not try to score at all, just do everything defensively and rebounding. They are going to be a very dangerous team in the playoffs when you consider some of those role players that have started to step up and play well for them Timberwolves. I'm not out on them or the Kings. Those are two dark horse teams with different trajectories, of course. They're not the same type of team, but I'm saying those are two teams that everybody may be sleeping on, and I'm definitely not sleeping on, and I think are viable threats to all Western Conference teams when it comes to a playoff series. It's just going to be hard to scheme against. Some of them little Timberwolves dudes, I'm telling you, they're going to be hard to scheme against. So I know what I'm talking about there. I believe they can be a threat. Teams like the Clippers, they don't want to catch the wrong matchup, man. Teams like Denver do not want to catch the wrong matchup, because it could be curtains for you. So I was thinking about something else that concerns me about this Western Conference. There's a guy by the name of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I don't know how good he's going to be in a playoff situation. That's my thing. He's an unorthodox dude who pretty much scores 30 and gets about 8 assists every time he steps on the court. It's getting to a point where it's kind of ridiculous how much he scores every night. So my thing is, nobody sees Oklahoma City coming as it pertains to him being a closer, like De'Aaron Fox or John Moran or Trae Young or something like that. Nobody sees Shai coming. But I'm telling you, he slots in to one of these playoff spots, and you're going to have a hellified time trying to guard this dude for 7 games. It's going to be hard. Him, Giddey, baby Magic Johnson over there, J-Dub, they are not going to be easy out. I am warning everybody in the Western Conference. You had better beat the Oklahoma City Thunder in the regular season. Every last one of us need to keep them down. They are a dangerous, dark horse sleeper team, and you do not want to see them in the first round. I'll tell you right now, Sacramento does not want to see OKC in the first round. That is a potentially dangerous matchup for them, because I'm looking at De'Aaron Fox versus Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and I'm not sure Shai ain't better than him, man. I'm not sure. Look at some of those role players on that Thunder team. Them dudes can match them bucket for bucket. They got their own Malik Monks and Kevin Huerter back there. They really do. So that's a team that I know is playing with house money at all times. They can miss the playoffs and be happy. They can win the Western Conference and be happy. There's nothing keeping the OKC Thunder from playing their best and just letting the chips fall where they may. And they're going to play they're going to play a spoiler for somebody. I just hope it ain't us. Still got to play them twice if I'm not mistaken. So, I know that if anybody's been following me, you're not surprised about Trey Murphy and how well he shot last night. Because I told you guys Trey Murphy was going to be one of the greatest shooters when he was drafted. I looked at his shot for about 10 minutes and I said, this dude is going to be one of the greatest shooters of all time. So for me, him hitting 9 threes or 8 threes or whatever it was last night is just the tip of the iceberg. He's going to continue to do that for the rest of his career. And I think the Pelicans are an extremely dangerous team going forward. And I still think they could potentially make some noise if they get Zion back and win the right amount of games going forward. Now they got a lot working against them, but with B.I. on his way back, and that's one of those situations where, okay, if Trey is going to step forward like this, and now if he can be relied upon to give them more production going forward, CJ and his shooting ability, this is a dangerous team too, man. New Orleans Pelicans, I'm not exactly certain they're not going to overachieve once this becomes a closing 10, 12 games left. I'm not sure they're not going to go on a nice little push if they get people back in time, I said at the beginning of the season I thought they were the best team in the West based on how much depth I thought they had from top to bottom. Now, that didn't hold up. That just did not hold up. But what I can say is they still have some of those same players, and I still think they are just as dangerous. They just haven't been healthy at all season. But that doesn't mean they won't be healthy in the end. And that's what people need to be concerned with in regards to them. It's not about how healthy you are right now. It's about how healthy you are in the end when you get to the play-in tournament. Will you have all your horses? And as far as I can tell, there's a good chance Zion plays in the play-in tournament game. And that is not good for whoever goes up against them. So these type of things I already have in mind. I'm thinking about that. You got to avoid that. If you're Dallas, you don't want to play them. You do not want to play them with a hobbled Luka Doncic and the roster issues y'all got. Y'all got to keep winning games, whether Kyrie and Dallas and Luka out there or not. Because I'm telling you, if y'all fall, y'all going to really see how quickly y'all going to be ousted in the playoffs. I'm telling you, y'all ain't got the horses to go up against some of these teams in the Western Conference, man. Not without both of them dudes being 100% healthy. Dallas just don't have that team like that, man. So, it's gonna get ugly for some of these teams. I would be really disappointed if Sacramento gets ousted in the first round. I just don't see that coming, man. Unless they run into us, obviously. If they run into my Lakers, then they definitely got to go in the first round. But aside from that, I just think even though people are thinking of them as the team that shouldn't be there, I actually think they're going to beat whoever's in front of them. Whoever's in that 7th, 8th seed, they happen to run into the wrong team, they're probably going to take it, man. They're probably going to take that first round because they have been as good as they've been all year long. They're still winning games right now. Knock on wood for them and their health, no injury issues. I don't see why they can't continue this domination in the playoffs. I don't see why they can't. I just don't. I see nothing but talent all up and down that roster. All up and down that roster. And less questions about their circumstances than most of these Western Conference teams. Maybe all, to be honest. Maybe all. So we got to see how they hold up for the rest of the season. Health will tell the story. One rolled ankle here or there can really turn a lot of things upside down for certain teams. And again, with teams who have players who are out right now, some of them are coming back, man. Bron is coming back. Y'all got to know this. He's coming. You know what I mean? Some of these players, we just assume some of these teams are just going to be slotted in as they are. If John Moran's getting help right now, that means he'll probably be back for the playoffs. He's somewhere getting his head right now. He's going to be straight in 3 weeks. Don't think he won't be. Don't think he won't be. He has, and I'm not speaking for the young man because he has his own way to go and there are things bigger than basketball. But I can tell you this. That young man has worked very, very hard helping his team get to this record. He's missed pockets at a time before with injuries. So this is just another one of those. Only this time his body's not structurally against him. So trust you me, he's going to convince himself he's fine in about 2 weeks and he's going to be right back out there. You mark my words. He'll be out there very soon. If the NBA doesn't get in the way, John Moran ain't going to be away for long. Because as soon as he comes around to, yep, I don't want to ruin my life. Yep, I don't want to be a gangster. I was tripping. The first thing he'll want to do is get out here and play basketball. That's it. And it ain't going to take long. I know that. It may take, if he has some other issues going on, then it will take a long time. But as far as I can tell, this is just a wake-up call. And believe you me, he's had that wake-up call for the last 2 weeks. Probably longer than that. So depending on how deep those issues are, and even if they are kind of deep, I have a feeling he's going to want to get back out there. He's not going to want to throw the season away. So that's what I see there. I just know he's coming back. Eastern Conference, a lot of people are talking about Jokic and Joel Embiid. Man, I got to cry ignorance, man. I ain't been paying as much attention to Philly this year. I ain't really paid attention to the Eastern Conference very much, man. I'd be lying. The Lakers have kept me very much occupied on my team. And, I've never been more zeroed in on my squad as it pertains to focusing on us versus everybody else. I just have not cared about anybody but us. And that's a real thing. I'm very much zeroed in. And so with Joel's focus, him averaging 33 points is a real feat. They're winning games. I think they found some synergy with him and James Harden. Maxi's been healthy for a time now. They got their thing going now. I just think at this point they're just trying to get through the stretch season, maybe try to squeeze into the second seed if possible, but it likely doesn't look like it. So they're coasting right now. And I just think he's in a tough spot, man. Because he's an MVP in an era, just like his man James Harden, where there's just a guy who's going to get MVP over him just statistically off the strength of that. Like, James Harden could have had 4 or 5 MVPs if it wasn't no Steph Curry. But there is a Steph Curry, and that was the problem. And he eventually got one, of course, but he was always runner-up. Man was runner-up like 4 or 5 times. So I think that's just kind of what Joel's running into. It's like, it's not that you're not him. It's just that there's one greater. And it just is what it is. You can always be as good as you are, but it's still going to be, okay, well, do your numbers match up with that dude? Nah. And that's what it's going to come down to. We can say winning matters most. Yeah, it do. But when you start talking about the ways that Jokic is affecting the game, it's undeniable. The statistical, just basic dominance. It's not close, man. I'm sorry. It's just not. People going to have to respect that. It ain't got nothing to do with how great Joel is, because he really is as great as he is. And if Jokic goes down with an injury or something, that's his MVP. But it's like, nah. I mean, you just got to understand what Jokic is doing out there. He's getting way more assists than everybody else. He's not getting hurt, so his usage is high as heck. The whole thing revolves around him. He rebounds the ball for the whole damn team, basically. He gets the interior scoring for the whole damn team, basically. He just affects more than Joel does on the offensive end. And because of the assist factor, it's the assist factor that trumps him overall. It's the assist factor coupled with his ability to shoot just as good as Joel. That's the problem. He's shooting free throws just as good, threes just as good, field goals just as good. So then it just becomes, Joel, do you have enough assists, bro? Never. Why? Because Jokic is one of the greatest passers of all time, and nobody's going to assist with him like that. You're not. Your name got to be Bron, Chris Paul. You know what I mean? Those are the people who can assist with Jokic, not guys who are really, really amazing at basketball who are intent on getting assists. Nah, you got to have a gift. If you're trying to pass with him, you got to have that. So it's like, Joel is a amazing basketball player, but he is never going to control as much of a game as Jokic is, as it pertains to what he does for his team, despite statistically how it goes, how things are run straight through Jokic. If he isn't scoring, he's getting it to the guy who is scoring every play. And if he's not a part of that play, guess what? He's the one that got the offensive board and put it back. So it's impossible, man. It's literally impossible, especially since he's so durable. And I can see if he was like AD and only played 30 games a season, that would help your cause. But this dude's always out there. He don't get hurt. So, I think he's more durable than Joel is. That's what also hurts Joel. Joel be missing more time than he does. Now, I can't say I've paid attention to how many games Joel's played this season. I don't know. I have zero understanding. But just looking from season to season to season, that's not a conversation. Jokic is definitely more durable. So that's the end. I mean, it's not. I said this is the beginning of the season. I told you guys this in the summertime. Jokic was going to win the MVP. I told y'all that because it was going to be this. When you just understand how much the assist matters and how much shooting percentage adds into that, What is he, a 90% free throw shooter? I mean, you're not going to out-statistic that dude, man. Nobody is, bro. Nobody is. No one in the league today is outstatting Nikola Jokic. It is over with. That is it. He shoots too well. He passes too much. He rebounds too much. It's over. The end. He going to get the MVP every year until he retires or until he has an injury season. I'm telling you, that's it. He's king MVP because he's going to affect the game more than anybody else ever. Maybe ever. Literally. So that's it, man. I don't know who it was that said he was, I think it was Charles Barkley said he was one of the greatest draft picks in the history of the sport. Yeah, he is. I'm with Chuck. He is. He might be the number one. He might be the greatest draft pick in the history of the sport. Why? Because he got him like in the back of the first round. That's why. It ain't got nothing to do with whether or not he's as good as Bron or nothing. Like, nah, we ain't talking about that. We're talking about draft pick. Value. They got this dude. The Lakers passed on this dude not once, but I think twice with our draft pick. Like seriously, dude. So let's not see the fullness of what Jokic is bringing to the table right now. Let's not see the fullness. My thing is, his team isn't constructed well enough for him to win a championship. So he can stat everybody to death all he wants. He's still going to get ate up by real pros who are just going to have the ability to scheme against his team. Put him in a different situation? It depends, because this is the thing. The reason why I think he gets MVP every year is because of all of what I said and because of the fact that the Nuggets comply with all of this. They allow everything to rotate around him. He could be doing all of this, but if he was on a team with, say, Trae Young or something like that, and they put the ball in Trae's hands, it just wouldn't be the same thing. He wouldn't be able to do all this with the stats. It just wouldn't be possible. The Nuggets make sure that he's the focal point of everything so that he can outstat everybody. It's the Nuggets doing this to all of you, not Jokic per se. It's their compliance by making sure that certain players aren't ever in place to take anything from him in regards to him playmaking, which is definitely to their benefit because his game is on the ground. It's not like he's jumping out the gym, wrist to bust an ankle or nothing like that. That's another thing. Everything he's doing is on the ground. That's another reason why he's so dang durable. He's not even jumping. So he's not going to roll no ankles or nothing like that, man. He's doing everything. He's playing pool out there. You know what I mean? This is like, it's a different game for him. And so I just understand what I'm watching. I know what I'm looking at. You know, and if he continues to play like this for 20, 30 years, not 30 years, but like 20 years, he's gonna break a lot of records, man. A lot of them in multiple categories. So if he can just get a championship, this is the thing about him. If he can sneak a chance to get this year's championship, then he'll really be solidified as one of them dudes that just undeniable top 10 player to ever play a game type stuff when he retires. He just needs to be able to start the process of getting jewelry. Because if he never collects jewelry, then he's just like a Wilt type dude. He's just Iverson, Wilt. You did all that stuff with the stats, but it was never enough because you could not capture enough championships to make it make sense to us. He's just that guy. Russell Westbrook. You know what I mean? You gotta make championships happen when you're that dominant. And nobody's been as dominant as him and now won a championship. Nobody. Because I can argue nobody's ever been as dominant as him, honestly, based on what it is he's doing statistically. Him, Wilt, you know what I mean? Like stats-wise, I'm telling you, it's different. So Bron, like those are the guys. And it comes down to rings. Bron got 4. You know what I mean? So he's got work to do. If Jokic wants to be in that category, it's not going to just be about how much he can accumulate statistically based on, you know, how much he controls for his team. That's not enough, man. If your team ain't winning the championship, you're just a stat guy. That's it. Amazing one at that, but just a stat guy. So Jokic's going to have to define whether or not he's a winner. And it's going to be on the Nuggets to help him out by getting him that wing protection. That's that shot blocker that's going to help him in the paint. Until he has that piece, I just think he's at a disadvantage. But we talked about that already. But yeah, man, that's what I want people to say. Like I'm a realist as it pertains to Nikola Jokic. You ain't dealing with him. He's a 7-footer, man. So that's what it really comes down. He's a traditional big 7-footer who passes better than all point guards and shoots better than most shooting guards. You know what I mean? Like it's just, you can't deal with that. He has eyes in the back of his head. That's just, yeah. Good luck with that. I'm happy that I have Anthony Davis on my team because that's the person he tends to have the most trouble with pretty much in the entire league. So I feel good going up against him, but most shouldn't. Simply put, most shouldn't. And if he starts getting championships, if the Nuggets can just get him his first championship early enough, you'll start hearing about him being one of the greatest players ever played the game. That's a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer, man. So that's what I wanted to say about that. What else going on? I don't know what else to say. I think that's it. Hopefully Joel Embiid can string together some massive 50-point games or something and just kind of edge out Jokic if that's what everybody's rooting for. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't care, bro. I don't care. I'm after a championship. As a Laker fan, individual accolades don't move me, man. You know, I can tell you right now, I just watched one of my players get the all-time scoring record, like the all-time scoring record, the pinnacle of all the scoring. And you know what I felt that night? Not that we lost. I didn't care, bro. So ain't none of this stuff gonna move me at all unless you're winning. I'm not moved by none of it. You know, I was listening to Kenny for real. He was talking about his Bulls, talking about how he hate watching his team right now because they're not very good to watch, and he'd be happy if he can just get one game against the Bucks. And my thing is, like, he was joking. He took that back. But I'm like, man, I could never be like that as a fan. I could never root for a team that couldn't get it done like that. I would need to see some changes in order to stick to my allegiance. I don't know why people stick around and allow for mediocrity. I don't know. I demand excellence for my team, man. I really do. I demand it. And I'm lucky enough to be a part of a team that has championships already. But that whole I'm happy to get to the first round and win a game crap, I don't know nothing about it. I don't understand that. I don't get it. The only way that makes sense is if you got a young team like the Rockets or OKC or something, and you trying your best to see them have something to carry forward next year as to which they're going to get a little better, and then you're moving forward, you see the future, and of course that's fine. You have those type of measuring sticks as a means of a stepping stone to get you to the championship. But you got DeMar DeRozan on your team. Alex Caruso already got a ring. Lonzo Ball on an $80 million contract, possibly never coming back. Like, that ain't nothing to want. None of that is worth nothing in Chicago is worth wanting, including Zach LaVine's massive untradeable contract. None of that's worth wanting, man. If I'm the Bulls, I am blowing that thing to smithereens. Sky high. TNT, y'all. C4. I'm blowing it up. Chicago, you need an entire overhaul because there's nothing there worth having right now, in my opinion. Absolutely nothing. Even the stuff worth having, you should be willing to let go of because you can't do nothing with it. That's how bad Chicago is right now. It's awful, man. Awful. So I just wanted to leave my video there. I think I will end it right there. My name is BDL44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.